good. It's so, in Indonesian we call it kempus. Like look, watch. You see? How soft that is.
Hey, Seraphin here. Today we're making donuts. Not just any donuts though, we're making very soft and light TangZhong donuts. This is a yeasted donut dough which gives it more flavor and also structure. This dough is also tacky and contains an egg, quite a bit of butter and sugar, as well as milk powder. Now, to support the butter and fat the dough contains, we're using bread flour for its extra gluten content to give it some structure. All fat interferes with gluten development, so for richer doughs like this, we prefer using higher protein flour. You could use all-purpose flour, but the dough would likely turn out to be much softer and weaker in structure, and because lower protein flour absorbs less water, the dough could also be a little more slack and hard to handle, so keep it in mind. This donut recipe also has a little bit of nutmeg added, just 1/4 of a teaspoon. This is what gives a classic warm and sweet taste to the donuts. If you don't have nutmeg, then you could also use cinnamon to replace it. These spices are more of an optional ingredient though, so you can skip them if you don't have any on hand. So, with those notes out of the way, let's immediately start making the donuts. So first things first, we need to make the TangZhong. So we're going to measure 75 grams of water into a small pan. One gram over, that's fine. And then we're going to add 15 grams of flour. And for this type of thing, we always try to make sure we get the liquid or water in first before we add the flour. This is to help prevent lumps from forming. It really does help. Now I'm just going to take it off of the scale. I'm going to mix this very well to get rid of any lumps. I'm just mixing the flour in general. And that should be about it. I don't see any large... Oh wait, there's one on the spatula. Okay. So now we want to set it atop the stove on a low fire.
While stirring continuously, we want to heat the entire mixture to around 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. Eventually, it will thicken up and become a thick slurry. When it reaches a specified temperature range, we'll turn off the flame, and we want to let the TangZhong cool in another container until it reaches room temperature. And with that, we've got TangZhong.
So as you can see, this TangZhong looks pretty good. And all we need to do is wait for it to cool down. And okay, so we've got our cooled down TangZhong, and we can begin making the main dough. So we'll take our stand mixer's bowl, and into it, we're going to add our cooled down TangZhong first, using a spatula to scrape it all in. 325 grams of bread flour, 50 grams of sugar, just pour that in, 35 grams of milk powder, this is full cream, sorry. Pop that in, and then 1 teaspoon of salt. And 1/4 of a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. You could use powdered nutmeg, but we think freshly grated tastes a lot better.
1 teaspoon of instant yeast. Just sprinkle that in. 100 grams of water. 1 whole egg.
We have one final ingredient to add, 45 grams of butter, but we're going to wait until the dough has been kneaded a little bit before we add the butter in. So we're going to pop the bowl into the stand mixer with a dough hook attached. Seal it in, and then let it run on a low speed first for about a minute so that the flour doesn't fly into our faces. Just fine. Then we'll bring the speed up to a medium, and we're going to let it run for about 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, at this point, the dough should be well combined and homogeneous. It should also have a little gluten developed, which is when we want to add the butter. So we've stopped the mixer, and we'll just drop in the butter using a spatula so we get it all in. So here it is. Oops. I'm just gonna drop it in. Close it. And after this, we want to start the mixer again, back to medium speed, and let it run until the dough becomes fully developed, smooth, cohesive. That should take about 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so the dough looks pretty good, and the signs are that it's cohesive, looks smooth and well combined. That's pretty okay. It is still kind of tacky though, so don't be surprised. This donut dough is really just like that. So okay, we can do it. We can give it one final test. We're gonna do a window pane test. Just gonna flour my hands a little bit, and then take a small portion of it and stretch it out. Yeah, that looks pretty good. We can see the light through that. It's quite tacky. So I'm going to sprinkle the surface with a bit of flour. Okay, not a bit, quite a lot. So I'm going to be letting Navita do it, and I'm going to narrate what she's doing. So first of all, we're going to prepare the bowl that's needed for bulk fermentation by oiling it. So some regular cooking oil, and use your hands to get all the sides. It's just to prevent the dough from sticking to the bowl. It'll also make it more convenient for us to work with the dough. Okay, and then we're going to get the dough out of the mixing bowl. Just using a scraper to clean up any bits that are still stuck to the hook, as well as the sides of the bowl. And then we're gonna plump it up. We're gonna flip it out onto our pre-prepared work surface. What we want to do here is just round it into a nice boule. Again, it is a tacky dough, so add more flour if needed. Just rounding it into a more even shape. Then we want to put it into our glass bowl. We're also going to cover the dough in oil. Just coat it well. This will help it stay moist. So, since we're going to be fermenting the dough after this, until it doubles in size, we have a quick tip to show you what height the dough will reach when it's roughly double in size, which is just to push the dough to the midline of the bowl. Then the height of the dough should be the height the dough reaches when it is doubled in size, just like this. Alright, now we know the height. Then we're going to cover the bowl well and let it ferment for about 1 hour or until the dough doubles in size and reaches the height that we saw just now. This fermentation time may vary depending on your room temperature and local climate, so it's best to check on the dough from time to time to see whether or not it's doubled. Now, if you don't have time to make the donuts immediately, you could also put the dough in the fridge to slow down the fermentation and do a cold retard. You can leave the dough in the fridge for up to 12 hours, and then you can take them out and continue with the recipe. The dough won't stop rising in the fridge, it'll just rise much more slowly, so you can put the dough in overnight and continue when you wake up. And after that, when the dough's done with its bulk fermentation, we're going to prepare the work surface again by lining it with some more flour, just a little bit. And the dough can get quite sticky, so we're using enough to prevent sticking. And after the surface is ready, we're going to just take our dough out of the bowl and place it on the surface. Just by using a scraper, it should come out quite easily because of the oil. So we're going to shape the dough into a long log like this, a long even log, and then we're going to start cutting it. So we want to divide the dough into 14 equal pieces, roughly divide them into 14 first, and then we're going to use the scale to get the exact measurements. Each piece should be about 47 grams. A gram or two being off is perfectly fine. So once we're done dividing all the pieces, then we want to pre-shape each piece into a little boule. So we'll take one, and then we'll just fold the edges in, just like this, until it's tight. And then we're just going to roll it with our palm. Okay, so just folding in the edges, making sure that we build that tension on the other side, then flip it and roll it with our palm. There we go, a nice beautiful little boule. Okay, so we're gonna shape the donuts. Just take one piece here, and using flour as necessary. I'm gonna flatten it out a bit. So just flour the nozzle, also flour the top a bit. Yeah, these donuts are sticky. And then just down the center and push. There you go, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Ta-da! Oh, that's really nice. Okay, so it wasn't perfect. Oh, yes.
Yeah, doesn't that look nice? It's a donut. I'm gonna put it here.
And one more note about donut holes, about making donut holes, is that make sure not to make them too small. Like for example, we have another piping nozzle here, but this is too small for the donut hole because when it hits the fryer, it's going to end up filling in the donut hole if it's too small, because it's going to expand right inwards as well. So we want to get a big enough hole, but of course not too big. Okay, so now that we're done shaping the donuts, we're gonna wait for them to proof for about an hour or until they double in size, and then we're going to fry them.
When the time's up and the donuts are ready, we're immediately going to fry them. This is a very important step, and we use a thermometer to get the temperature of the oil in the right range, at around 175 to 185 degrees Celsius. If you don't have a thermometer, then it might be a good idea to save a part of the dough or one of the donut holes as a sort of tester to see if the oil is ready or not. If it sizzles well and rises to the top, then the oil is ready. It is very important to get the temperature of the oil right, since if the temperature is too high, it can cause the donuts to brown too fast while the center remains raw. On the other hand, if the oil is too cold, then the donuts will absorb a large amount of oil and end up greasy. So we have to fry them in the right temperature range, 175 degrees Celsius to 185. So with those tips out of the way and the oil at the right temperature, we'll slip in our donuts. Being careful not to mess with their shapes, we don't want to accidentally squish or pull them. Also be very careful with the hot oil, it can be very dangerous, so please take caution. And after the donuts are in and have separated from the parchment paper, we want to remove the parchment. Again, be careful with the oil. The donuts will also expand, so we don't want to have too many of them in at the same time. This will also help keep the temperature from dropping while we fry them. We want to fry them until they turn golden brown on both sides. It should be quite fast, around 1 to 2 minutes per side. We're also trying not to flip them too many times so that they can cook more evenly. And then they're done. One of the signs of an ideal donut is this thin white ring around the center of the donut. It's the small part of the donut that never really fries in the oil. That's why it's so much paler than the rest of the donut. And as you can see, this one looks really good. Now it's best to let the donuts cool on a wire rack to prevent any soggy bottoms. You could also use several layers of paper towels. If you want to roll the donuts in powdered sugar or donut sugar or sprinkle it on top, make sure to do it quickly while the donuts are still warm. And by quick, we mean less than a minute after the donuts have left the fryer. That's when you should cover them in powdered or donut sugar. This will help the sugar stick to the donut and stay on. The donuts actually already taste fantastic by themselves, but with their toppings, it just takes them to a new level, you know?
Mantap ya, Vin. Enak banget. It's so beautiful. Look at that crumb.
So these donuts are best eaten as soon as possible, like right after you made them. They taste better this way. And normally these donuts always disappear very quickly here, so we've never really needed to worry about storage. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and bye!
Lagi, Vin. Enak ya, Vin?
Look at that cross section.
It's beautiful.